Hi guys, so this video is going to be very long. I'm going to cover the topic of throwers. Okay, and I'm going to divide the video into two separate parts. The first part is going to cover dedicated throwers, and the second part is going to cover multi-LED high output throwers. However, this whole video is going to be one take. So you're just going to have to bear with me, okay? Alright, so what do we have here? Here we have the K40 VN, TN32 VN, TK61 VN, K50 VN, K70 VN, TM36 VN, and then a DefX. This light is not made by me, okay? Okay, so let's get started. First, let's talk about the numbers first and get that out of the way, okay? This light, this light here makes all of these numbers are measured by me, so they're relative to my measurements. Don't compare them with anyone else's, okay? Here we have 380 K lux, 450 K lux, about 470 K lux, okay? Here we have 500 K lux, 570 K lux, 800 K lux, 850 K lux, okay? So with those numbers out the way, now let's talk about the lights more individually. This is the K40 VN, the original K40 VN with XML2. It's probably my all-time most favorites, bestseller. I have sold a ton of these, and the reason that they sell so well is because they throw amazing. It throws amazing for the size. Okay, reasonable size, carryable. The reflector is not too large as compared to these lights. Okay, however, this light is for now discontinued. The reason it's discontinued was because I really like the K40 VN with the XML2 PDT. The problem with the replacement one, the K40L VN, is it throws a little more, but it doesn't have a perfect beam. It has this bright ring around the hotspot, and that's the reason why I killed the K40L VN. So right now this light is out of production, so let's take it out of the picture. One step up would be the TN32 VN. Both of these make around 1500 lumen, by the way. This one throws a little more, but it has dramatically better quality. It has a brass ring here, nice stainless steel stripe bezel, and it throws a really nice, perfect hot spot with perfect beam with no artifacts. And one of the reasons why I highly recommend this light over the K40L, just because of that beam, the imperfection in the beam of the K40VL. And the K40VL VN is not even available anymore. However, I do have plans to discontinue the TN32 UT VN also. So if you want one, you might want to get them now, because I do plan to get rid of them. Then the next up, it had the TK61 VN. This light has been the throw king for a really long time. There are so many different variations of this. Me and Richard over at Mountain Electronics are working on a driver for this light, and it was a big struggle. We went through 4-5 different versions of the circuit for this light, and at one point it was kicking ass, but the circuitry was just not very reliable. So I discontinued this light, okay? But the base version with the original boosted driver makes roughly a little less than 500 K lux, around there, okay? And it makes about the same, actually it makes like 1300 lumens, so it's actually less bright than both of these with the XPL and XML2 in this one. So I am thinking about killing this light also, because right now it's kind of obsolete. It doesn't really have they don't have an XPL version. I wish it had an XPL version, but it doesn't have an XPL version. Okay, so with the XML2, it's just not modern enough to compete with the newer LEDs. So I too plan to discontinue this light. Okay. So recently I introduced the K50 VN V3, and this light really kick ass, because it's basically up 1000 lumen from the lights that you see over here, and it basically throws about the same. Okay, throws 500 K lux. So It throws about the same as this big light, but you get an extra 1,000 lumen, and that's big. That's definitely more than evolutionary. Okay. However, this light was very short-lived. AceBeam decided to kill the K50 VN, the K50. I'm sorry, with the unreliable magnetic rechargeable system in the back. So they replaced it with the K70 VN. Okay, so this whole entire review is mostly revolving around this light. Okay, so I'll spotlight on this one. And let's first set these two aside and do a little comparison between the K50 VN and the K70 VN. Okay, the K70 VN is a much improved light over the K50 VN. Okay, the knurlings is better. Okay, it just feels more grippier. I love these diamond knurlings. The tail cap was very well thought out. There's a big scallop here, so you can fit your thumb over it quite easily, as opposed to the there's a smaller opening here for the rear switch. And as you can see, if you grab it from anywhere from the side, it's kind of hard to grab. You kind of have to fit your finger in right at that exact groove, and it's just big enough for my little thumb. I imagine someone with a larger thumb would have a harder time. Okay, this one has a larger opening, and it's just easier to grab the button. Okay, so better knurlings, better access to the rear button, no more unreliable magnetic charging port. On top of that, a lot of people had complaints that the control ring, the magnetic control ring on the K50 wasn't very grippy and it was hard to hold. It's a big light. It's definitely a big light in my hand because I have tiny hands, and the control ring didn't have really good grip. How that was addressed in the K70 VN. Now you can see on the control ring, they're very steep raised, as you can see here, and it makes it much easier to turn the ring now, one hand. Okay, and aesthetically it looks better as well. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see that in camera, but the control ring right here has these really raised grooves. Or yeah, all right. So the fins at the top is also more aesthetically pleasing in my opinion. Okay, maybe you like this rounder ones, but I really like how they make scallops fins here on two different tiers, and it looks really nice. Okay, the original K50 VN doesn't have a scallop bezel, nor does it have a stainless steel stripe bezel. So if you lay the light down and you have the light on, you can't really tell if the light's on, and that's pretty bad. If you accidentally left it on upside down, it will be on and you would not know. It will overheat and all sorts of bad things can happen. However, on the new one, you have a very strong, robust stainless steel stripe bezel, very high quality. Okay, and now you leave the light upside down, you can tell if the light's on or not, and I imagine with the stainless strike bezel here, it's better for drop impact reliability. I've actually never dropped these lights, and they're quite heavy, and if you drop them down head first, I imagine bad things are going to happen. But I would rather drop one with a stainless strike bezel than one with an aluminum one. Okay, so aesthetically, it's well improved control ring and really nicely improved everywhere. Most notably the control ring though, because that's a functionality thing. It's not just aesthetic. Okay, everything else is more subjective, and subjectively, I like it more than the K50 VN. Okay, now the big difference, performance-wise. The K70 VN reflector is 4mm larger than the K50 VN. 4mm is not a lot, but it's enough to add 70 lux over this version, okay, over the K50 VN. So this one makes 500 lux, this one makes 570 lux, and it makes about 150, give or take, lumen more than this version also. So this one now makes about 2650 lumen. So from a single LED, now you have, now comparing this to the old King, you have 1500 lumen, you have 2600 lumen. You have a very nice user interface here. Finally, I can say that this AceBeam is as good of a build quality as the Phoenix over here, if not better. Okay, closely analyzing the anodization, I can tell now the AceBeam has totally stepped up their game. Okay, and look from the looking at the machining of the stainless steel bezel here, is definitely a step up from everything that they ever produced, and is as good of a quality as the Phoenix here. There are no more sharp edges. There is beveled all around, so there's a clear signs of good quality. The glass now is very thick, ultra clear lens, AR coated on either side. So everything about this light inside out is very high quality. Okay, the construction is very well thought out, where this whole head is a large chunk that's machined out, and the LED sits right on top of the bottom, and it's not on a threading or a shelf or anything. It just sits on the entire unit head, not body, but unit head. So it heat sinks very well. Okay, because of this new introduction, I was so impressed that I'm just going to kill off a bunch of my throwers. And basically, if anyone comes to me now asking what thrower should I get, I'm just going to point them to this one. Unless AceBeam decided to somehow improve their K40 LVN, because this, as you can tell here, the K40 is much smaller and much easier to carry, much less throw also. But if they can somehow make a nice, do some kind of update on the reflector that works well with XPLD dome, and reduce or eliminate that bright ring around the hotspot, then I would seriously consider it. In my opinion, AceBeam should seriously put the XHP35 in the smaller size K40 VN. It's going to be an ultra hot seller. I already know it's going to be. So basically, if you have 2600 lumen here, 2600 lumen here, a little bit less throw here, that's okay. But in a much smaller size, it's going to sell. But right now, it hasn't happened. So there's nothing I can do about it. So the K40 LVN, the K70 VN now here is just going to be the recommended light, the king, the go-to thrower light. Okay. Okay. So next up from the 570K lux light, I have here the TM36 800K lux light. Okay. Just so that I get this off the bat, other reviewers tend to measure my lights a little higher. I measure it a little lower than everybody else, but at least it's relative. So do remember, keep in mind that compare all my lights to my lights. Okay, so 570, 800, that's a notable step up. However, you do have a much larger light, okay, and you have much less lumen. You have 2650 here. You only have 950 lumen here. This light is also ultra expensive at $615. It makes a tiny little hot spot because as you look down here, there's a really small XPG2D dome in a very large reflector. And this light is very expensive because it's very hard to build. And I'm discontinuing this light, so I'm keeping one for myself, and that's it. It's a very nice light, very good thrower. It's just too much work. Even at $615, it's just too much work for me to because the light itself is very expensive, okay? And I don't really get a good deal buying this light either. So it's just the money, even at $615, it's just not worth my time. And stress, more importantly stress. Very hard to get that tiny LED to center right and focus right in a light this large. So yes, although it's 800K lux, that's quite notable over the 570. I just have to kill it, and it's very sad to see that I have to take it off my lineup. Okay, this light here, not a light made by me. I think it's made by Saber Buster from I don't know. Just go on ohmygodlumens.com and I didn't build this light, so I don't really know much about it. I do know it's one of the best throwers out there. However, now we have here we have an Aspheric throwers. Basically, you can see a curved lens at the front here, okay? An Aspheric lens to be exact. And so what that does is it focuses down to a square beam. It's not a traditional beam. I don't know if you can see that on the wall. But so with that Aspheric lens, you get most of the lumen into a little square projections of the LED die. and it throws quite well. Both in practice, both of these 800 K-Lux and 850 K-Lux throw relatively close, okay? However, this one has a traditional beam with hotspot, corona, which is the immediate light around the hotspot, and then you have a really wide spill. So in some ways, this beam is more conventional and more practical than this beam, but they're definitely good use for this beam. You have great throw without any glare, and you have just your hotspot or just the focus of the beam onto a subject without distracting anything else. This is a customer light, and as if I'm not mistaken, I think this light costs around $1,000, and is I think it's also discontinued. You can't buy it anymore. Okay. So from all of the lights that I've ever made or handled, the TM36 VN here is the best thrower with a reflector. I don't know of any other LED reflector that throws more than this one. There probably is. I just don't know about it. But at least from all the lights that I make, the TM36 is the best thrower with an LED and a traditional reflector. All right, so we talked a bit about all of these dedicated throwers. Okay, very small hotspot with a large a large spill beam and not much else. Okay, it's a dedicated throwers. Basically, the purpose is to put as much lumen as possible into the hotspot. That is very impressive to show off, but not always practical in use. Okay, except for the K70 VN. I think that's actually quite practical. Now you're stepping into the almost quite close to 2700 lumen. You have a serious thrower with significantly high output as well. So all of these lights, dedicated throwers with not too high of output. This light, I don't know. I think it's stepping into the the output is enough to compete with multi-LED lights, so it's very impressive. All right, and just to show you how impressive it is, I'm going to compare it to high output throwers, multi-LED lights. Okay, all right, let's get these out of the way so we can bring in the next batch. Again, I'm doing this, usually it takes me like 30 takes to do a video. Today, this is my 4th take, and I'm doing all of this in one take. So if there's mistakes, I'm just gonna have to live with it. Okay, it's too hard to redo it every single time. All right. The smallest thrower that you can have, okay, is a P60 VN with XPG2 PDT, and that fits into a P60 host, and you will get it in a very tactical size like so. Okay, single LED. If you're into flutters, then there is a quad P60 VN. Okay, however, in a P60 format, they're not much of a thrower. Step up. We have the M30 VN. This light right here has 3 LEDs, so you can have different LED options. It will put out roughly 3,500 lumen, and it throws quite well. It throws around 150 K-Lux, all right? But now, so 2,700 lumen, let's just say they're roughly about, you're not, at 10% difference is not much. So basically, these two makes out around 3,000 lumen, okay? Around there, in that same ballpark. However, this being a single LED with a much larger reflector puts out 570 K-Lux, 150 K-Lux. But then you have a much smaller desirable size. In order to acquire higher output, you have to group a bunch of LEDs together, and throw is inevitably going to be sacrificed. My all-time favorite thrower, compact light, all together, one light that does it all. This is the 6XL VN, and with 6XL PDT in here, you get roughly 250, 200, maybe around 200 K-Lux, okay? But you get about 6,500 lumen. So twice the output, over twice the output of this light, and about half the beam intensity. So that's very impressive for something this small. And that's the reason why it's my currently all-time favorite, Do It All Light. Okay, which is expensive as well. It's like $500. Here we have three direct competitors of each other. The brand new Jet Beam T6. I actually have not done any modification to this light. I just got it today. I'm going to throw it in the video because